Production support for the weekly special is provided by IU School of Public Health Bloomington, addressing public health needs by preventing disease, promoting health, and improving quality of life across the state and around the world through research, teaching, and community engagement. The Al Cobain Recognition Endowment Fund, established by friends and family of Al Cobain to support jazz initiatives on WTIU and WFIU. And WTIU members, thank you. 2016 marks Indiana's bicentennial.
And throughout the year, celebrate the state's history with the weekly special. Tonight, travel back in time to another memory chain moment. Journey on the historical jazz crossroads of Indiana. Cozy up next to the hearth with Earth Eats Annie Corrigan. And welcome Indianapolis's country favorite, Diesel Confederacy. Sit back and discover Indiana history you don't know.
And explore more about the stories you do, right here on the weekly special.
Welcome to the weekly special. I'm Daryl Neer.
And I'm Erica Sagone. Over the next year, the weekly special will showcase incredible state history and explore the Indiana of today.
From art and music to history and dazzling destinations, we are excited to celebrate the bicentennial each episode. And what better way to start than to look back at the Hoosiers of the last century.
Each of them had gathered here for a reason that seemed important at the time, maybe so important they imagined it would still be a reason to gather many years later. But as they were posing for this image in that moment, maybe the larger purpose, or that distant future, didn't matter as much as knowing that being together helped them enjoy something about life. This brief, fragile life. Just before they returned to their daily challenges, much less that distant future, they stood still and gave us one moment that mattered. There. That's what the photographer might have said after the image had been captured. Then the people in it began to move again, and so would time itself, until a day when someone pictured in the image would say, once again, there.
There.
That was me back then.
That's me.
There, that was me.
That was me back then.
There.
That's me.
Let me tell you about that day.
The H.D. Smith family reunion. Two panoramas taken 2 years apart. Confusing to the casual observer for a couple of reasons. One, the family seems to have contracted in size over that period. Secondly, outside of a few familiar faces, there's very little continuity. Go figure. Well, let's try anyway. The man at the center of it all, H.D. Smith, was the son of a coal miner and also a trustee, steward, and class leader of the local Methodist Episcopal Church. There is evidence that instead of relying on four walls to spread his message, H.D. Smith chose the four winds instead. He became part of an ancient tradition followed by peddlers, vaudevillians, and preachers, that of an itinerant. Indeed, around the time of this reunion, H.D. Smith was listed in the city directory as a traveling salesman. True enough, only H.D. wasn't offering something you could actually hold in your hand. So the term family takes on a different meaning, with perhaps completely different family members living somewhere else. Linking them all together, his message, and maybe this wagon. The words painted on the side initially obscured in the photograph, but if you keep coming back to it, all is revealed. Right, H.D.? Prepare to meet thy God. Pretty sound advice, whether you're talking about facing that distant future or this eternal present.
Erica, I always love our memory chain stories.
Yep, I agree. Well, David Brent Johnson is WFIU's jazz expert and host of the programs Just You and Me and Nightlights. And in 2012, he wrote a 4-part series detailing the extraordinary history of Indiana jazz, titled Jazz, Crossroads of America. In honor of the bicentennial, we are bringing the series to the screen, premiering in just a few minutes. But first, we welcome David Brent Johnson to the studio. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thanks, Erica. Very happy to be on the show with you and Daryl.
Well, start us off here by telling us, what do you think makes Indiana important to jazz?
Well, it played a really important role in a number of ways. You had Jeanette Records, a really important label in Richmond, Indiana, where a number of artists like Louis Armstrong made their very first recordings. You had a thriving collegiate jazz scene in Indiana in the 20s and 30s that produced people like Hoagy Carmichael. You had Indiana Avenue, the Black Boulevard of entertainment in Indianapolis, where a lot of great people like Freddie Hubbard came from in the mid-20th century. And then today, you have the jazz education program at Indiana University, which was started by an Indiana jazz musician, David Baker. And so for nearly 100 years, the state has been producing jazz musicians of a national caliber all over the world.
It's so fascinating to learn, the rich history that we've got here. So why do you think it's important then that we share this little bit of history with Hoosiers?
Well, I think jazz is seen as being a very cosmopolitan and sophisticated music, but it's also really rooted in this kind of earthy middle American essence. And Indiana was a place where it was able to flourish. And I don't know if a lot of people realize what a huge part of the jazz legacy Indiana has. And I think it's just another way in which the state has made an amazing cultural contribution, not just to America, but to the world. And so I'm always happy whenever people are able to find out a little bit more about some of the great people like Wes Montgomery and David Baker and J.J. Johnson that have come out of the state, and Hoagy Carmichael and Cole Porter as well.
Well, David, thank you so much for kind of giving us a little preview to what we're about to see. It's going to be an intriguing series. I just know it. And we're going to begin our journey right outside WTIU's door with Bloomington's own Hoagy Carmichael.
When the great songwriter Hoagy Carmichael published his first memoir in 1946, he called it Stardust Road, alluding to the song that had set him on his way to becoming famous. The road that Hoagy took, metaphorically and geographically, began in his home state of Indiana, a state that played a significant role in the rise of Hoagy's beloved jazz music, from the ragtime of the early 20th century to the jazz education movement of today. A place where hot jazz hit like a happy fever in the 1920s. Hoagy Carmichael described the phenomenon. In the farmlands among the Indiana-Iowa corn and from the cow pasture universities, there sprouted a beardless priesthood of jazz players and jazz composers. Instead of buttermilk and Blackstone, we were nurtured on bathtub gin and rhythm. The dance fever provided plenty of working opportunities for the numerous bands that sprang up in the hot jazz college scene of the 1920s. Artists both black and white trekked to Richmond, Indiana, where Jeanette Records, an offshoot of the Star Piano Factory, introduced the world to Louis Armstrong and Jelly Roll Morton. Back in Bloomington, Hoagy reveled in a growing passion for jazz, starting his own group, Carmichael's Collegians, which developed a reputation not only on campus, but in the region for entertaining young dancers. When not at class or performing at the bootleg liquor parties, Hoagy could be found tinkering away on the old upright grand, the centerpiece of the campus's Book Nook Cafe. It's quite possible, however, that Stardust would never have come to pass if it hadn't been for the visits the up-and-coming trumpeter paid to Bloomington in that now-distant spring of 1924. Bix Beiderbecke's recordings have been treated as sacred text of early jazz, with many calling him the founding father of cool jazz. When he and the Wolverines rolled into Bloomington in the spring of 1924, they had recorded only 2 sides so far. Carmichael had already met Beiderbecke at the Friars Inn, a jazz speakeasy in Chicago. He'd heard him play and had not been impressed. But by the end of 1923, Beiderbecke had made big gains in his strength and creativity as a player, and the Wolverines gave him his first consistent vehicle for displaying his talents across the Midwest. Fellow Wolverine saxophonist George Johnson had also joined the Wolverines and contacted Hoagy in early 1924, hoping to land some jobs for the band at Indiana University. Carmichael set up a series of 10 fraternity and sorority dance gigs for the Wolverines, spread over 5 weekends in April and May. It was on one of those first Saturday afternoons at the Kappa Sigma fraternity that Hoagy got a chance to hear the newly advanced Beiderbecke play. Carmichael would recount the scene time and time again. As the Wolverines started to warm up, he recalls, every nerve in my body began to tingle. I've heard Wagner's music and all the rest. Those 4 notes that Bix played meant more to me than everything else in the books. It was the start of a lifelong friendship, built upon experiences on the IU campus, like the Midnight Serenades, a ritual in which musicians were driven on the back of a truck, carving their music into the night lawns of the sororities and fraternities around 3rd Street. After one such serenade, as Hoagy later remembered, the 2 friends ended up back at Hoagy's Kappa Sig house, lying on the floor and listening repeatedly to Stravinsky's The Firebird, drinking bootleg liquor and joking. And Beiderbecke said, "Why don't you try writing music, Hoagy?" Within weeks, Bix and his fellow Wolverines made the first recording of a Carmichael composition, Riverboat Shuffle, for Jeanette Records. After the spring of 1924 drew to a close, Hoagy and Bix went their separate ways. Hoagy graduated from the IU School of Law, spending the mid-1920s torn between 2 worlds, becoming a lawyer and pursuing his love of jazz. By 1927, Hoagy's true passion won out. He returned to Bloomington, returned to the Booknook's battered upright grand, and began to craft the song that would launch his career. On October 31st at Jeanette, Hoagy recorded the first rendition of Stardust. Today, Stardust remains one of the most recorded songs of all time. Just weeks later, Hoagy reunited with Bix once again, who is now a member of one of the most popular ensembles in the country, the Paul Whiteman Orchestra. Carmichael, alongside Whiteman and his crew, recorded his original composition Washboard Blues, playing piano and singing on the national stage for the first time. After a move to Hollywood, Hoagy continued to write independent songs for publication and film, including favorites such as Heart and Soul, The Nearness of You, and the Academy Award-winning In the Cool, Cool, Cool of the Evening. Bix's journey, however, took a more tragic turn, ending with his untimely death at the young age of 28. It was a devastating loss to both jazz and Hoagy alike. He later wrote, "With the passing of Bix, my interest in music dropped about 50%. Walking the IU campus today, you can almost see them, Bix Beiderbecke and Hoagy Carmichael, 2 young artists crossing paths in the heart of the heartland, high on life, liquor, and music. A few years later, one would be dead. The other would live and write and sing and remember. Together, they carried the spirit of Bloomington into the annals of jazz history."
You can find more information about Indiana Jazz on the WFIU website, indianapublicmedia.org/nightlights. And we definitely look forward to learning more in upcoming episodes.
Absolutely.
Well, cold weather, soothing jazz, all we need is warm, comforting food. Annie Corrigan shares more.
We're in Columbus, Indiana again, and we've been cooking over this fire all day, basically. We've got 2 ducks, it looks like, some apples in the back that are stuffed. We've got pumpkins that have been cooking since before I even got here, figs next to it. We've got a whole feast ready for us.
Well, this really shows what you can do in a fireplace. And even if you decide not to go all out like this, when you have your friends over, get a fire going, put some cheese right next to it. It gets it up to an ambient temperature where it's going to taste wonderful. And, you know, you can just kind of gather around a fire and it brings you that kind of communal feeling.
Let's talk about the ducks, because that has obviously taken the longest so far. How long ago did you put these on the fire?
Well, these take about an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on the heat of the fire.
And you started them breast side down to start crisping the skin on the breast side first.
Right. Then I've turned them over, and we also have a drip pan down here. So every once in a while what I'll do is I'll take the duck and turn it and catch all those drippings. And that will be a really nice sauce that we can spoon over the sliced duck. We've got the figs in there, a little bit of red wine, a little bit of apple juice. We have the baked brie that we did right over the fire. You can see that kind of got a little smoky and burnt, which is fine. And we can dip that and serve that over biscuits or crackers or crusty bread. We've got some wonderful bread here that Gretchen made. She's an artist and she made a nice Christmas treat for us. We have the different gizzards and livers from the ducks here, some wild rice up in the corner, and then we also have done those garlic cloves.
Oh, I don't know if you can hear that steaming all the way over there.
But smell that.
Oh my gosh! Woo!
Okay, so we've just cut off the tops, put a little bit of oil, salt, pepper, a little bit of fresh herbs in there, put them on the slow side of the fire, and now you can just squeeze that out onto bread or squeeze it into our sauce and we'll have a wonderful flavor.
Let's talk about the different heat levels of the fire. So we see that the ducks are towards the front. They're not over the actual fire, but the apples seem to be over the fire itself.
Right, what we're doing with the apples is we're reducing that liquid. So they can be right over a heat like it would be on a stovetop. But so we want to cook down the apple juice and the lemon juice and concentrate those flavors, make sure that the apples get nice and tender and soft. We'll probably pull them off when we pull the ducks off. We'll pull those apples up front, let them sit there and keep warm. And we'll just make a day of eating around the fireplace today.
You can learn more about real food and green living on the Earth Eats website. Print off recipes, read the latest in food news, and subscribe to our weekly podcast. It's all available at eartheats.org.
Wow, that looked incredible. What a feast.
Delicious.
Well, we are excited to welcome our next guest. It's Indianapolis's country favorite, Diesel Confederacy.
I love my Jack Daniels and cigarettes.
I wanted to get the best possible lineup that I could, so that's why I've got these guys. The members of the band consist of Jeff Derby on drums, and Scott Parrott on guitar, Benjamin Denon on bass guitar, and myself on vocals.
Well, I've been to many towns this year. I've been on the road, been in every motel room from here to Mexico.
As far as genre, but I would say more like Southern rock, traditional country. We like to say you're not coming to a show when you come to see Diesel Confederacy, you're coming to see a concert. Looking out into the crowd, seeing all the different age groups and just different types of people, we want to give them the best possible show. If I could change anything about the music industry in its current state, I would say that, and I just think that it would be neat if there was some type of label that really, really pushed unheard artists, because there's a lot of good ones. There's a lot of good ones. Music is definitely one of my top passions. I have the drive, and I've had the dream for a long, long time. And nothing else makes me as happy as playing with these guys. Our main goal would be to please everybody, make everybody happy when they come to our show, our concert. I want them to leave feeling that they're going to remember who we are tomorrow. If it's one fan at a time, we'll make it one fan at a time. In the next 5 years, I would like to see Diesel Confederacy playing, opening up for big national acts, or possibly even, doing our own thing, having people open up for us. And if someday down the road that big opportunity comes, hey, we're going to be right there and we're all for it.
And now, Diesel Confederacy. Yeah, thank you so much. Get the latest concert dates and music releases at their website, dieselconfederacyindy.weebly.com.
Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
And explore more at our website, as always. Before we go, once again, Diesel Confederacy. Good night.
I love my Jack Daniels and cigarettes. I've been many towns this year and I've been on the road. Been in every motel room from here to Mexico. I really can't say I remember every day. Whiskey and tobacco have always been my thing. I don't do shots of tequila, you wouldn't like me mad. But Jack Daniels and cigarettes are always in my hand. I love my Jack Daniels cigarettes. Don't stand in the way of them, it's something you'll regret. Everyone's got their vice, I like to think of mine. Pleasures I have earned in life, and I'll do it to the day I die. You may ask me why I say this, I'll tell you I don't know. Smoke this last cigarette and get a shot and the rocks to go. All right!
Production support for the weekly special is provided by IU School of Public Health Bloomington, addressing public health needs by preventing disease, promoting health, and improving quality of life across the state and around the world through research, teaching, and community engagement. The Al Cobain Recognition Endowment Fund, established by friends and family of Al Cobain to support jazz initiatives on WTIU and WFIU. And WTIU members, thank you.